Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Refracted Curvature, Neil, 10th Man, Paul, Righteous Force, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
As I was saying before you rudely started the show. Oh, hi. Hi, everybody.
Good morning.
Hello.
2 o'clock, I'm punctual, what do you want? It's time to start the show.
No, you were 2 minutes early.
Right, let's get on with it. We're going to trial out a new housekeeping question. So as with the case with any evidence of an elevation angle measurement acquisition from a curved baseline or a curved adjacent as it started out, that's now incorporated into the housekeeping questions. And I think we're 99% there with the latest housekeeping question. And as we've got him on the panel, do you want to ask, Eli? I've got it all. I was all genned up to do it, but it should really be you that asks it for the first time at the beginning of the first show. So over to you, Eli.
Yeah, sure. Is there any evidence that level is equidistant from the center of Earth?
Is there any evidence that level is equidistant to the center of Earth?
Or is there any evidence against it?
That's the burden of proof reversal fallacy, isn't it?
No evidence of that, no.
Hold on. Arwin's question. Go ahead again, Arwin. Let's just think about what Arwin's saying.
Well, is there any evidence against it that it isn't what it is?
So level is an axiom, right? So it's not up to a claimant to prove that level is level. Level is what it is, but there's also an extraordinary claim in some definitions of level that is equidistant to the center of Earth. Therefore, that becomes a positive claim, Arwin. Do you understand?
Eye level is the plane from which we derive
but still,
angles.
Like,
Hold on,
any
John.
evidence against it?
Yeah, one more time, Arwin.
Oh, yeah, I get it. I mean, we have to presuppose as a baller, all that, but I mean, what is there specifically about it that is disproven or anything? I mean, why would we have to bring that up as proof? Why don't you prove that it isn't the case?
You answered your own question in the first statement. Yes, at the point of asking the question, do you want to repeat the first thing you said?
Sorry, I don't remember exactly
You
what
said,
it was.
yes, they have to beg the question and all that.
Oh, that, yeah.
Right. So is there any way beyond the axiom that you can prove that level is equidistant to the center of Earth?
Well, if you'd realize that the horizon is actually the edge of the sphere, then we would have to infer that there would have to be a center to that sphere, and that would be the lead you need.
No, that would be you justifying your paradigm, but not actually explaining how level is equidistant to the center of a sphere. You've also begged the question twice. I'll just repeat, you didn't actually justify how level would be equidistant to the center of Earth. You just begged the question twice. That's all you did.
What's the problem?
That's not the problem. That's ideal. That's why it's going to be a housekeeping question. What else are you going to do? Do you feel a little bit dirty?
No. I mean, we've pretty much gotten used to as ballers that, yeah, begging the question is part of the procedures that you go through. Otherwise, what's the point?
Can I point out something to this? Because eye level is the baseline from which you will derive angles to the celestials, right?
Yes.
It runs right into another housekeeping question.
Any evidence that you can acquire an
down.
elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline?
Locally
None
flat.
whatsoever.
It does run directly into
Either
that housekeeping
horizontal plane.
question because the moment they suggest that they can explain, and they will beg the question and feel dirty as they do it, once you get to the next question, well, okay, so you're attempting. We haven't seen any yet. We'll see what comes of this, Eli. Well, I'm looking forward to the responses, but without preemptively suggesting any of the responses they might give. Once they've given a response, if they give a response, how are they then going to justify getting an elevation angle measurement?
Their only response is going to have to be producing an R value.
They'll need it.
That won't help.
But they'll need a flat
That
earth
won't
to
help
do
us.
it. They've
They
just
need to address
justified how.
something.
John's point is that, I assume, John's point is that once you've assumed that level's actually equidistant to the centre of a sphere Earth, I've got to add it in at this point, Eli, well then, when you come to actually measuring an angle, they're going to draw out level to get it from? Do you see where I'm going? Or John's going, more accurately.
I want to make a statement.
Oh yeah, Baldwin, go ahead.
Yes. Yeah. No, I'm kind of like a little bit offended by you suggesting that begging the question would make us feel dirty. I mean, like it's some kind of a prostitution action or something. It isn't. It's just like asking somebody, "Hey, do you have a dime for me? I really need to make a phone call." I mean, it's
That's
just
begging.
begging for a dime.
That's
it's
not-
not that dirty.
begging
Why
isn't
are
the
you
same
making,
as-
why are you stigmatizing begging the question so much?
It's because it's
Nathan,
totally
can I
different
ask
thing.
you-
Or
That's
has
begging.
not been a dime in a long
Hold
time.
on, let's just clarify. Right, there's a big distinction between smash the super chat to support this channel, aka that's e-begging, or I need a dime, brother. I've got to take a phone call or make a phone call. Right? By the way, Arwin, it's the 21st century. When did you last see a phone that you could put a coin in
Exactly.
of any description?
I'm trying to appeal to a very specific audience. You
An
have to
old
realize
audience.
that.
Right, me.
Can I,
Nathan,
I-
there's a
can I ask them a
That's a-
question real quick?
yeah, but Nathan, there's a picture of Master D to prove your point. Go on, Eli.
Yeah, so begging the question isn't dirty. Well, let's call it what it is then. It's a logical fallacy. Like, can we define what begging the question is?
Assuming the outcome.
Very good.
That's wrong. That you
It's
shouldn't
not-
be doing that. Justify doing that.
You can't.
It's not wrong to beg the question if you know you're right.
Okay.
That's like a double whammy right there.
Well,
I
see,
think
that's the interesting thing about this, right? If you prove or work off an axiom, or if you prove something and you build upon that knowledge, that's one thing. But to assume something's true just because you assume something is true is the problem that you're in.
Well, as a baller, I don't see that as a problem.
It's a big problem because you're going to take a standardized description, meaning, definition of a word, and give it a totally different meaning because you're begging the question.
All
Try
right,
and put
I
it in
just
something that's
needed,
a
as
financial
moment, I
detriment
just
for Arwin.
wanted
Okay.
to share my grievances that
Arwin.
I don't appreciate being called feeling dirty when I obviously don't begging the question.
Okay.
Well,
Let's just move past
the
your
pig-
feelings about feeling dirty.
the-
It's not the main point. Who cares? Right. But I just want to give an example. So, if you've got a car and I approach you as a salesman and say, right, you need to start paying us the silicon corrosion tax. Right? And you go, what are you talking about? You go, well, there's a certain amount of silicon used in in many, many, many products, and inside your car there's silicon. And that silicon corrodes, breaks down, and causes this, I don't know, pollution of some description, and therefore you need to pay me money. So based on my assumption, I'm going to beg the question that you've got silicon corrosion that causes this to happen, and therefore the solution to me assuming, begging the question that silicon corrosion is an issue and will cause environmental harm, I'm going to charge you for it. It doesn't matter, and I'm not going to feel in any way dirty that I'm assuming something as an outcome, i.e. the silicon corrosion environmental detrimental conclusion that I've automatically assumed. You just need to give me money. Moving on. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
You're not going to go to the picture
I've
and
had it up the whole time.
Well, you didn't comment on it. I'm not looking at your screen.
One of the slides. This is the begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking, earth curve calculation. It shows the horizon. It's geometric. It's marked with an X, labelled horizon, and is claimed to be a bulge, blocking your view of things hidden by that physical geometric limitation called earth curve, claimed to be the horizon. You'll notice, as John points out, that there's a dotted line labelled surface level. Over to you, John.
I was about to say it. All this takes place below surface level, apparently.
Yep.
Yeah, that's not the picture I just sent you in Master D.
Oh. Okay. What was the picture you sent me then? Because it's got 10th Man Rising above it.
Interesting. The one I sent you is the one I see in there, and it's not that one.
That's the most recent thing I've got from you. That's what you sent me.
Wow. Well, let me
Eli
just
is
see what's
before
happening.
saying, I wasn't wrong, I was right. Oh, it's Brian talking to Eli. Oh, they're still arguing.
It's right.
I'll just scratch that, pretend I'll edit it out. I won't.
Yeah, it's right after.
Any other picture?
Wait, what?
Nothing,
It's
nothing,
like-
nothing.
oh boy, it's right after Elijah. I wasn't wrong. I was right.
Yeah, that's the picture I had up.
Interesting.
Wait a minute, what? Okay. All right, I'll do some.
But just as long as Brian doesn't mind me showing his remark, that's how it appears to me. You can see it on the live stream if you want to see how it comes through.
All right, so the surface level gets no comment that John's trying to point out.
That's it. He said it.
No, he said eye level. That's the bubble sextant is the eye level. Until you do height of eye correction, you're not putting your eye on the surface. That's why that's a double killer, because they'll agree that the spirit level is level, to point out Eli's strong axiom here. And that goes to infinity, that eye line spirit level at the eye line. But then when you put down the bubble sextant and pick up a Mariner sextant, and now you're using the sea horizon, you got to bring your eye to the level of the sea in a height of eye correction, which gives you the same outcome as the one with the bubble, meaning they're parallel. So if the one is infinite level and you're using the horizon in the second method, that's got to be level as well. End the story.
Right. But the horizon in there begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking earth curve calculator in Muppet Vision as displayed here, has a horizon that we are told we cannot see and only exists in the maths that's below surface level. Obviously we need the surface level because we couldn't derive the calculations to get R or anything else that they use a flat earth for, including mapping all of the stars on a flat plane to then derive a sphere model from. So you need surface level, obviously, but this horizon doesn't exist. We've been told on plenty of occasions by ballers that this horizon, claimed to be Earth curve, blocking things in the distance, calculable in this maths, we will never see. That's the geometric horizon. That's Earth curve. We will never see it. It doesn't exist.
No. Let's give it a little bit more meat on that bone. All Al Baruni had to do, if that story is true, is go up higher in elevation. And he sees further on the plane, which is surface level. And then because he sees further on the plane, he gets the depression angle. And then they make up the sphere and put horizon, geometric mark with an X.
Right, but the depression angle is merely what John describes when he says the depression angle between surface level and the eye level. As you've got it on this diagram, it's marked with 2 dotted lines. It even says it on it, eye level and surface level, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, that's where you derive everything. John's right. The differential between those 2 parallel lines is what's calculated into the curve. And all you're seeing is the opening up of the angle as you raise an elevation, described as a physical limitation that's dropping away from you below surface level.
Yeah, because that dingleberry, or part of that dingleberry, the curved surface, and where they got distance and bulge and hidden visible, none of that is there. Nothing under that bottom dotted surface level exists.
Correct. It's all dingleberry. What you actually use and measure is the surface level. That's how you
Then,
navigate.
then they take what they do, which is what you're seeing, surface level and eye level. Then they take that and say, oh, all the measurements in the nautical almanac are from the equatorial plane. So we're back to another plane that doesn't exist in the middle of a sphere. So they take what they do in reality on top, of course, Earth, but on top of their dingleberry, and move it to the center in order to get an angle, because they can't get an angle from a baseline.
That's what I was going to say. So it's all being done on top. What they're saying is being done from the center.
Right, which is why the now new introduction of the housekeeping question in regards to them justifying level as equidistant to the centre of Earth, when their angles come from level, for them to be angles at all. So, you know, in every way, shape or form, that question leaves them screwed, especially when followed up with the elevation angle question.
Wow.
I agree.
Where does that?
Yeah, because as Brian points out, what they've been asserting is that level is curving, right? But eye level is not. But if you define level as equidistant from the center of a sphere, you can't get an angle from that. So even if they try to answer it, they're going to run into another housekeeping question. And, well, how'd you measure an angle then?
Exactly. It's
Well,
defined in their model. Basically, if you look at what they've defined here, you've got the person, I, and then you've got them standing on the ground or on a mountain. It doesn't matter. But what do they define? I, level, dotted line, with another horizontal parallel line to it, defined as surface level. It's intrinsic to the maths. You need a flat plane to derive your angles for your sphere model. That's why we're not censored. That's why we're still here. We'll be downtrodden as much as humanly possible, but you can't eradicate flat Earth. It's intrinsic to your world. Now, when they say, well, level's equidistant to the sphere, show me that in your model. Because according to your model and intrinsic to it is the acquisition of angles from surface level. Now, that is a horizontal line. It's not bending equidistant to anything. Level is level. In both models, and by both models, I mean both sphere models. One that's a sphere that we never see, that has the heliocentric entirety as a part of a working model that we never get to see. And this, the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator, that's very clearly got level in it. And it ain't bending around a sphere now, is it, lads? So what are you going to do? Beg the question of how it does move around and try and justify it in a weak-ass way while you beg the question? And then answer how you've got this level to derive your model from? Because those two things aren't going to play nicely together.
So
Thank
you're
you.
saying flat Earth, they did not come up with a sphere? They needed a flat Earth to make their sphere?
Yes, Neil. That's correct. In order to claim you are on a sphere, you first need to measure the flat Earth you're actually standing on.
In other words, I am your father.
Yeah.
Nathan, can you please read Eli's question again?
Any evidence that level is equidistant to the center of Earth?
Okay. Now, if you look at this picture after you read that, You'd have to get rid of the surface level dotted line, completely not have it in the image, and you're left with eye level. Now, how does that eye level work out with that curved surface? Reading that question, it doesn't.
Game
Share
over,
the show.
man.
Just typically I say share the show anyway, but this is an unusual turn of events in terms of us having a new housekeeping question. You know, that's as big a deal as having a fundy to debate with a new proposition of sphere Earth proof. This is an annihilation. This is something that Bev's been arguing about for quite some time. Well, on screen now is the answer that will shut them up for the rest of time, Bev, if you want to see it. They need level to be level for their model.
Right. And you know, one of the things is the Bev makes the assertion past what he needs to in his axiom. And then they respond in the way to say that level is equidistant from the center of the sphere. That's why Elijah's housekeeping question is it's putting the onus of their positive claim on them.
Brilliant.
Share the show. You know,
Well,
like I say, I've said it a few times previous. If you want to be able to disseminate the facts of your world to next man, next woman, friends, family, people who should be watching this show need to be told that they should be watching this show to get that information. You're hearing it here first.
It also destroys their argument of locally flat. In the locally flat, come back, they have a disco ball Earth with little squares on it, which Brian has shown they need to do that for navigation in these little squares. But they all meet up. But when they meet up, they still stay flat in angle measurements. But in their world, they bend over a globe. Just think of a disco ball with a bunch of square mirrors on it. And so if the eye line, according to them, is level to infinity, then these locally flat arguments all disappear as well, because they're slow squares going over a sphere, and you lose surface level to match eye line level. So it's not parallel anymore. In fact, the only place it is parallel is in the imagination of a dingleberry equatorial plane, which doesn't exist. So they take surface level, move it to the equatorial plane, and say, see, it works if we move it there. Yeah, but you've got surface level here with dotted line. No, we're not getting the measurement from a curve. We can't get an angle from a curve. We have to go to the equatorial plane. Yeah, but that's the surface level. You just moved it down in the picture to a presupposed globe that doesn't exist.
Wow. We literally have killed the globe. Literally.
Let's move on. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
What's that?
All of that, you're going to ask for gravity? Haven't you been listening?
Well, if you can't explain gravity on a flat Earth, then that means Earth has to be a sphere, right?
Well, some people can explain gravity on a flat Earth. They can
Right.
explain it perfectly.
Yeah, the disk is accelerating up forever somewhere.
No,
Right.
coherent dielectric acceleration explains gravity perfectly.
Yeah, but if that were true in
no, it
lightning
doesn't.
storms,
No, it doesn't. It replaces it.
right? But if that was true in lightning storms, everything would float for a long period of time before the lightning strike. So,
Right.
yeah, that's ridiculous.
Sorry. Gas debunks this claim that we have a downward bias, regardless if you're going to claim that it's coming from a gravitational field that was replaced 107 years ago, with the notion that mass attracts mass, therefore things move to the centre of Earth. Well, that's a claim that gas can debunk. And if you're going to claim that there's a downward bias holding us to the ground, as opposed to us displacing the air that we're in, then gas itself, the medium that we've displaced, does not go down. Quite the contrary. It's created a ground level and makes its way up. And it might cycle back down. If you look at water, when gas, it makes its way up from ground level. That'd be, just to clarify, up and then comes back down as rain when it becomes more dense than the air. So that's based on its density. But in that process, you've got as much gas going up as more dense liquid coming down. It's a cycle. So that's
You
just as
can't
much
do
up
that.
as down.
Nobody
You can't do
responded to
that. I established, hold on a second, Harlan. I established a dichotomy between incoherent dielectric acceleration and a force of gravity. You can't introduce the idea like that dichotomy is wrong unless you give a third option.
I gave it.
I'm not giving a third option. I'm debunking
I did.
both claims. That's not offering a third option. I'm not saying the reason gas go down, go boom, boom, go splash, splash is because of unicorn farts. That would be a third option, making a false trichotomy. I'm not. I'm debunking both claims. They're both based on the premise that there's a downward bias. There isn't. Gas isn't going down. It's expanding into the volume it has available to it, unless it cycles back down when it comes more dense because of a phase change. That's going up. The gas goes up from the ground, not down 9.8 meters per second squared, not gravity, not incoherent dielectric acceleration, not in requirement of an explanation for its downward trajectory. It isn't going down. It's created at ground level and goes up. Don't believe me? Look up into the sky. Do you see a cloud? Is that going down 9.8 meters per second? Oh, what's that? I hear a fundy telling me that the gas around the cloud is going down, forcing the cloud up. So other gases are created in the sky and falling down, go boom, boom, go splash, splash, like marbles poured into a fish tank? No. The gases in their entirety are created on the ground and then make their way up. Now, the higher you go, the thinner they get because they disperse. It's entropic law. But that doesn't alter the fact that they're not going down. So there's no need to explain a force that's making them go down when they're not doing that. Hence, I debunk
Can
both
I say
claims.
something, please?
I was told they only gas.
Right. So, yeah, I appreciate that Nathan opposes the anti-flat earther rhetoric, right? And yeah, it might be among some Globers as well. But I think that despite how ridiculous it is as a concept, that Einstein's response was actually kind of sensible on a mechanical level. He said that the Earth was accelerating up eternally. Now, of course, yeah, where is it doing that? Okay, let's bypass that and just see like what would happen if everything here, including the gas, would be accelerating up. Well, if it was domed, if it was enclosed, then that could result into what we know as relative density, this equilibrium force distribution, right?
No.
If it was contained. If there was no container, then that would not happen. All the gas would simply just escape nonetheless. But if the entire realm was virtually accelerating up forever, then that might just, well, mathematically at least, result in the relative density disequilibrium force distribution.
Maybe.
Wow.
Maybe you can establish the cause of that effect because you're talking about entropic distributions. Therefore, relative density disequilibrium, or equilibrium for that matter, is merely a description, a second-order description of entropy, which is an effect. So if you want to try and establish the cause of the effect beyond your speculation of domes flying up at 9.8 meters per second as described by Einstein, then it's just pie-in-the-sky speculation. Just figure out the cause of it.
Yes.
Vary and manipulate that which you assume causes that effect. If you can force something up at 9.8 meters per second and overcome or relative density disequilibrium, then that might have something going for it that will lead you to actually vary something that causes the effect of entropy. I doubt it, because where do you find a neutral state of entropy to cause it to occur? It occurs always. That's why it's a law of nature. It's not like you can say, I'll stop entropy and then show how I vary X to cause entropy. I don't think you'll ever achieve that.
Well, you can't vary and manipulate the actual fact, the actual effects in a stationary setting, but you can account for them by parabolic flights, right? And then neutralize this apparent influence. But
What?
yeah, you can't actually like prove it within a physics setting, but mathematically it kind of works out. And Einstein's proposition in that, even though purely mathematical and unprovable, is actually one of the few suggestions that I've ever heard
Hold on.
that kind of does fit virtually with the relative density
Yeah,
mechanism.
we got that. We got that the first
What
time.
math?
Hold on. You said that it reverses the effects in a parabolic maneuver. So you're saying that gas that was formerly expanding in all directions starts retreating back to its origins when you go
No.
into a parabolic maneuver?
No,
Well, then
No.
it's not reversing the effects of entropy in the slightest.
correct. That's
Well,
not
that's
what I
what
was
you
saying,
imply-
though.
to be
That's
correct.
not what I was claiming.
Yes, that's what you implied, but is wrong.
No, but if it's enclosed, then you can basically counter the forces of relative density temporarily, but not literally very manipulated, because you can't do that in a
Right,
stationary
that's what you said the first
setting.
time. Then I gave you an example of something that should be reversed if that's true. You said no. So what are you talking about?
In a parabolic flight, if you take like the density tower with the oil and the water and all the other stuff, it will not, as long as you go in the parabolic flights, arrange itself according to the density layers. It will just kind of free float. It will do that. So it
But
does
how is that
appear
reversing
to
entropy?
negate the effect of
You
relative
took the words out of
density.
my mouth, John. Do you want to just say it again?
How is that reversing entropy, though? Because you're claiming a cause for a second order effect of entropy.
I did not use the word entropy.
I
That's
did.
something that Nathan brought up legitimately, but it's not involved in what I'm talking about.
No, it is. If you're trying to
Entropy is
establish the
not
cause of
involved.
it. Yes, it is.
It's not directly, of course, it involves everything, but it is not a part of the mechanics that I'm trying to describe. Right? But just for the record, this is not a scientific evidence of gravity,
Nobody
okay?
said it was. But it
Well, I
becomes.
was going to ask, what was the...
No,
It's an
no.
approximation.
I get you're not saying it's scientific evidence of gravity, but what I am saying is it could be. I'm only fighting this cause on your behalf because it was the only, literally the only input I had when much more intelligent people discussed this for me to summarise it as second order entropic effect. That's not my input. That was Adam and QE and others discussing it that came to that conclusion while I just sat back and listened. But my question at the end was, okay, if this is a second order entropic effect, then there's no reason why we couldn't establish the cause of it. Now, I was just laughed at. Like, yeah, good luck proving the cause of a law of nature. I'm like, yeah, but there's no reason why not, right? Now, after saying it about
Yeah,
five times, it was eventually conceded that, yeah, okay, theoretically speaking, in the colloquial sense, there's no reason why you can't try to establish the cause of an entropic effect. But by the same token, it occurs always. So it's not like, well,
How you gonna,
go on.
how you gonna do that though?
Wait, no, hold on. You're going to control something that happens always. Doesn't that sound a bit silly?
That's what I'm saying. How you
Well,
gonna
it
do that?
depends on how you're going to do it, right? I mean, if you accelerate in a car at a constant rate, you will find that everything within the enclosed car, it has to be enclosed, gases, liquids, everything is going to have a density disequilibrium redistribution. The apparent axis of distribution will be changed. It will become diagonal at a very consistent rate. Helium balloons will bounce slightly forward and upward, and heavier things or liquids will
won't.
be
Stop.
pushed backward
Wrong.
in relation to gas.
No, they will not.
Right?
No.
Yeah, I will.
No, stop. No, they won't. Because what you are describing is relative to the reference point you're going to describe. Camera inside the plane, camera outside the plane. Very different points of view in terms of which directionality you ascribe to the target you are observing. In this case, a balloon let go in a parabolic maneuver of a plane outside.
I was talking about
with
a
an
car.
nearly there. With an outside observer, it'll go in that direction.
You're straw manning me. I was
No, I'm not.
talking about
It's-
a car
I'm not
who
straw manning
moves
you.
horizontally.
You're saying I can observe an effect of a direction change, a vector change. And my response, my rebuttal is, that's relative though, isn't it, to the observation point? Internally, you can describe that as accurately as you just did. I only have to change the point of reference to externally to the plane, and it completely eradicates your direction claim. It changes the vector relative to the person observing. Therefore, as is the case, directionality is relative. So you can't claim that causally.
Okay, that's a very good point, actually. But still, it cannot be ignored that even from somebody that's just standing outside by the road, the car that's racing by at an accelerated fashion, to them, as they see it flashing by, the balloon will still sit in the front of the cabin, right? As there's because, yeah, it's still distributing that way, even though, yeah. This is getting very complicated, but I hope you understand what I
can't
mean.
do
I
it.
mean,
You can't
there
do
is
it.
an
No, I
apparent
That
axis
balloon.
change.
Let's carry on with your example. No worries. Yeah, that balloon to the observer on the crossroads, watching the guy who's let a helium balloon go and whizzed past. It's still going from left to right. I'm going to use even more ambiguous directionality. Right? It's going left to right. The balloon's not going backwards or forwards. It's going left.
Yeah. This is
Well, and
just
further to
semantics at
that-
this point.
And further to that, you're going to have to invoke an observation point outside of Earth and the air we breathe to even equivocate this to what's actually going on.
Quick shout out to Godzilla37. It says all horizontals are parallel is making all globe arguments start to smell. My best poetry, which is why I'm not a poet. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Godzilla37. Really appreciate the support.
But what I'm
This
doing
back
now,
and forth-
basically, hold on, sorry, I'll let you after this. But before the record, I'm basically reiterating the arguments that I originally had for what I thought was gravity in the times where I went up against Tony with this. I'm just now in the knowledge, like there is something there, and that's it, right? I'm not making a claim about it. It's not gravity, at least. There's definitely no gas going down, go boom, boom. But yeah, the more time has passed, the more it just seems to me that Einstein's concept, even though not literal, does kind of address the relative density axis. It kind of does.
No, it doesn't.
The globe's claim of gravity. What is that?
Well, I
supposed
gave
to
you
be
an
doing?
example. If you take a
No,
body,
keep it.
hey,
No, hang
Ah,
on. Hang,
you asked
you were
me.
talking.
You asked him to
I'm
rinse
not
and
done.
repeat. What do you want? You literally just asked him to rinse and repeat.
I'm trying to qualify the question I'm asking, and he jumped right at it before the qualification.
What, he took his opening
So-
when he saw it? He's baldwin. What do you want?
Well, that's why I'm stopping. him.
Neil asked me a question, how, and I wanted to say, but go
I'm
ahead.
asking the group. I'm asking the whole group. All right. The claim of gravity, when first heard by everyone, pretty much goes. This is what's keeping us on this earth as it's spinning through the void of space. And if we didn't have it, the water, anything that's not attached would be flying off. That was the claim of gravity. You guys went into a car, into a plane, fine. Let's go back to what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be mass attracting mass. Is it that anymore?
No.
Okay, so what
No.
is it? Is it the bending of space-time now?
Yes.
Oh, it's relative density, this equilibrium force. That's what's going on. But
No,
I'm just
That's
speculating.
not what they
What is
say.
it?
That's
What is
not what
that?
hang
Gravity is-
on. That's not. Show me a baller that tells me it's relative density, this equilibrium, and the end of gravity. Show me a baller that says that.
I think I've heard a baller say that once, but it might have been by accident.
All right, so then no gravity, just relative density, but based on the medium, no Earth spinning, no central force pulling everything towards it.
Definitely.
Okay,
No, that guy Bryant was keen on gravity. Come on. He didn't say it was relative density. He said it was
Did you say,
supposed to
hold on,
share.
did you say relative disequilibrium force? So the effect,
Yes.
second order effect of entropy is now the cause?
No.
Yeah, but the force is actually the thing that allows us to even perceive it exists, right? The relative density
force is a
disequilibrium
cause.
force.
A force
What
is a cause.
exists? What exists?
Displacement, like the relative density displacement.
Is that gravity?
No,
Okay.
but there is definitely a force there. It's just not gravity. It's relative density disequilibrium force.
So it's weight. It's weight. The actual meaning of gravity, weight, gravitas, which they hijack. It's just weight in the medium of air. And it's going to go what? Is it going to be held up because it's solid like a table? Or is air less dense and the more dense object goes down?
In
The
air.
second one.
It's relative to the
Yeah.
medium. That's why we say relative density.
Yeah, in air.
John, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Well, I was just going to say, this is like the arguments that we have about this is one of the reasons that people give for not wanting to come to flat Earth, because we don't have answers. We just have questions, really. And it turns some people off.
What question? I wish I hadn't asked now. When it comes to gravity, I don't have any questions. I debunk the notion that they claim as an effect that needs to be explaining with gravity, but that doesn't leave me with any questions.
Well, prior to that, they thought they had an answer for what causes entropy because they ignore what entropy is.
That's right.
But so now, what causes entropy is what we've come to in this discussion, and people don't like not knowing, and it just is what it is.
Okay,
Does
well,
the
do you want-
cause of
do you want the
entropy
helium-
only work on the globe?
Hold on. I don't know if you're asking rhetorically, but are you saying what's the cause of entropy in the heliocentric model? Because that's a much deeper question. It takes you back to the ontological primitives. Is that what you're asking?
That is part of it, but they, like I was saying in the pre-show, it's like you got all these answers, and going to flat Earth feels like a step back for them because all the answers they thought they had are wrong, and some people just don't want to face that.
Bent, got any more? If not, we'll move on.
No.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Not gonna happen. Their fields are all presuppositional, so they might do it, but not within the field. That's impossible.
The hypothesis needs defining in the scientific method, and observing something would be the first step, a dependent variable. So do you mind finishing off what a hypothesis is, Nathan, in scientific method vernacular? And then if you observe something happening in nature, would it require a second step or more even?
Okay, a hypothesis is a scientific prediction, and it's a prediction or supposition of cause after you've observed an effect in nature. So that's a hypothesis, supposition of cause, aka a prediction, also known as a scientific prediction. So it supposes what you think causes the effect you are studying. You've already identified that the effect you're studying is your dependent variable. That's what you're trying to figure out the cause of. It's the thing you observe in nature, and 50% of your hypothesis. The other half is your supposed cause of that effect. Ergo, if A, the supposition of my presumed cause of this effect, then B, the effect. So a hypothesis is just supposition of cause and effect. It also has a null, which is the antithesis of that prediction. So if A, my supposition of cause of the effect I observed in nature, then B is an alternative hypothesis. Therefore, if proven correct, you've proven that your prediction was right. But also the null, if A, supposition of cause, then not the effect, i.e. you don't induce the effect when you vary what you think will cause it. That's a null hypothesis. So those two sit alongside each other in a scientific prediction, aka hypothesis, when contextualized in science. So if A, then B, and alongside it, if A, not B. There you go, there's a hypothesis. The thing that you have to do afterwards, as you asked, is actualize your hypothesis. That is to say, make it real. On paper, it's just a supposition, yet to be validated. So you take your presumed cause, vary it, and see if it causes what you've studied in nature. If it does, you put a tick next to your alternative hypothesis. If A, then B, tick, because I varied A and it caused B. That supposition proves true. You automatically disprove the null, because they can't simultaneously both be true. If A, not B, cannot be true if A causes B. It doesn't both cause and not cause B at the same time. That's impossible. Hence the empiricism. So you put a cross next to the null, a tick next to the alternative, and that's an experiment. In scientific vernacular, hypothesis actualization. Making the hypothesis a reality. Varying your presumed cause and seeing if it causes the effect. Now, obviously, most experiments done by real scientists are going to have a pretty good idea that what they're studying is going to be the outcome that they hope for based on past experience. Therefore, they're not just throwing out ideas and varying them and seeing if it causes the thing they're trying to study. They've got a pretty good idea before they start. Nevertheless, because of the method, they may well vary that which they assume causes their effect they are studying in nature, and it validates, that proves, the null. They vary A, it does not cause B. In that instance, you put a tick next to the null and ipso facto disprove the alternative, putting a cross next to it. Because A did not cause B, it can't also cause B at the same time. So therefore, only one outcome can be proven true in an experiment. Either you prove your supposition true, or you prove the alternative incorrect. So you either disprove your alternative or prove your alternative. Ipso facto proving the null or disproving the null. Hope that's clear enough.
Well, read the question again with the supposed fields.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics.
So they observe stuff in the sky, but they can't go to the second step. So they make step one by saying, look, something naturally happening, a star doing something, blinking or whatever. And then they're stuck because they can't go do what?
They can't vary and manipulate that which they assume causes the effect. For example, bending geodesics in space-time, causing the curvature of light that we're perceiving. So, twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. What you are is a pseudo-Riemannian for space-time bending in a mathematical construction that doesn't represent reality because we don't have fourth dimensions and you can't bend time. But that's what it is when I wonder what it is. Because I say so.
So just wrapping it up. So if I want to know what causes water to boil, and in my hypothesis I say heat, then I can vary the heat and I could see at what temperature at different elevations water would boil, and that'd be a successful scientific method.
You don't need to even vary the temperature. That's a qualification that we arbitrarily ascribe with scale to the effect we're observing. All you have to do if you're trying to perform actual scientific method-based actualization of a hypothesis is cause the effect you're studying. If you're studying water boiling, inducing water boiling is the desired outcome when varying a cause of that which you're studying. So you're stumbling along the wherever it's very hot and has got hot springs, and you see a hot spring boiling, and you go, I wonder what caused that. Not, I wonder at what temperature that's happening. That's maths. What causes it to happen requires you to suppose the cause, you said heat, and then take some water that's not boiling. Unlike when you're trying to figure out the second order effect of entropy. In this instance, at this stage, the water isn't exhibiting the effect you're trying to induce when you vary something, in this case heat. If you apply heat and the water boils, you've varied your presumed cause and the effect has been induced. Therefore, you caused the effect you were studying. What temperature is irrelevant. That you might qualify if you choose to do so after the effect. But the reason you don't qualify it mathematically when you're trying to establish it in science is because cause and effect is all you are looking for. Ergo, if I say, well, how much acid content will cause it to boil? What pH acid will cause it to boil? No. When you're qualifying on a scale of pH, how much acid, it isn't going to be the thing that causes it to boil. Heating it will. So qualification in mathematical terms isn't even acquirable until you establish the cause. And to cause it, you just have to make it happen. Doesn't matter what temperature in this instance. Just does it boil? Then I cause the effect.
Thank you.
Well, I was going to say, I don't know if I give them phenomena, because their description of that phenomena is one of the reasons that gravity has gotten away so long, is that they've claimed an effect that doesn't exist. And then they went on to detail the cause of that effect, which, you know, letting them have the effect sometimes can be detrimental. So I would like for them to accurately describe the effect they're observing without using.
John, are you referencing if I have a heavy object in the medium of air and I let go, they're ascribing gravity to that? Is that what you're referencing?
Well, I'm referencing the fact that they're claiming a phenomenon called gravity, a downward bias that doesn't exist. If you let them have a downward bias, you can get into trouble in the argument. So as far as phenomena go, I don't know if I would give them that.
Well, no, if I hold a heavy object in the medium of air that's more dense than the air, it's going to go down. They ascribe it as gravity, and we say something else. So what is it that you're saying we're giving to them when we're saying, no, that's not the only answer. You just saw something go down, and immediately you formed a word called gravity, which has a bunch of other meanings to it.
What phenomenon are you saying?
Let's say I have a bowling ball and the medium that I'm holding it is air, and I let my fingers release the ball. Is it going to go down? Yes. And the baller, heliocentric, whoever, that's gravity. I say, no, the ball is heavier than the medium. Of course, it can't support it, so it goes down until it hits the earth, which is more dense than the ball, and now that's supporting it.
Right. You're describing what you see accurately. I'll agree to that. Is that how they describe it?
No.
Well, that's what I'm pointing at.
Well, that's what I'm saying too.
Okay, let me have a go, John. So rather than tense explanation, you've got the edge of a cliff, Wile E. Coyote style, and it just happens to break off and fall down. At which point, John's argument is to say that because you've seen something go down, you ascribe a phenomena of an always down bias that needs explaining for everything universally. It's like, by chance, just by chance, there was a child stood relatively close, nearly killed, in fact, from that falling rock from the top of the cliff. And it scared her so much she let go of a helium balloon. And the two passed by each other. Yeah? So what's that you say? We must explain the downward bias. What bias? There isn't one. But we're letting them beg the question that with a description of something occurring, that is an occurrence always, when it isn't.
Yeah. Yeah. So I challenge that they can even take the first step into the scientific method. But we are polite here, and I will allow them that.
I think what John's trying to say is it's not a phenomena until it's an observed phenomena. And if you're going to claim that it's a phenomena that you need to explain because it occurs always, then you need to see it occur always. If there's a bias downwards, then we need to see the bias downwards, as opposed to some things go down, some things go up, and some things that did go up go down in different mediums. That's very much not a phenomena when you've got different directionality to the claim when you're only asking why things go down. Shout out to James Mays, who says, let's just bring it up for the audience. FED, hello to the panel. QE, thank you very much for the super chat.
Yeah, now if you apply that to the heliocentric perversion of a flat Earth celestial sphere model, how can they describe anything happening on a sphere?
Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
Equator length.
Sorry, equator length? That'd be circumference.
Right.
Oh,
If you got a circumference, then you can also mathematically derive a radius.
For an equatorial flat plane.
Yeah.
But that's just the outside edge of the GP point of Polaris. That's the maximum extremity to the circle you would draw around Polaris. That's all it is. It's an area of equal elevation. That's all it is.
Right. And the stars are spinning around us like a globe, so it's very easy to imagine you're a globe underneath.
Is it?
And
Whoa.
yeah.
Is it? I didn't take that step in that last sentence.
What?
well, then you would
What did
have
I
an R
say?
value. Hang
You said
on.
it's very-
Read the question again.
You said it's very easy to assume that you're on a sphere when I've just described the equatorial plane. It must be a plane. We're going to be taking angles from it to stars. And described it as if you were at the bottom of it, it'd be you standing below Polaris and the maximum extremities of any man on the outside edge that could also see Polaris on that circle. So that's an area of equal elevation for Polaris. That's all that is.
Okay, well, you slipped by me. I kind of assumed that you were talking about an airplane. I wasn't listening too carefully, so.
Okay. Someone wants to get a word in. Who was that?
Yeah, it's from Polaris to the sun's 90 overhead that we call the equator. So from Polaris to the equator, that circle can be extended beyond the equator because you can see Polaris beyond the equator.
Read the
Okay.
question of R again, Nathan.
Any evidence of the R value?
Thank you. Well, that's what we're asking for, right? And it would have to be a sphere to have one. And it couldn't go past its limitation, like the black swan takes their claim that it is a sphere with a radius of 3959 and a 1 foot observer height. Don't miss it, every horizon distance can be no further. Let's make it clear. Every horizon distance can be no further. Well, that's how you prove the R value. But when the horizon distance is further, which is Earth curvature, the stuff that blocks the bottoms of boats and buildings, then where it's assigned based on the R value of 3959, then you don't live on a sphere with an R value of 3959. And then we have Mr. Sensible saying, well, at best, you've disproven the 3959, but we're still a sphere. Oh, yeah, well, at 10 miles, which the black swan picture shows the horizon much further than that, okay, it would be further than the moon, the radius from the center of a presupposed globe with an R value would be all the way to the moon. The surface of the Earth would be all the way to the moon, that radius straight line. Is this even plausible?
Minor correction. To the moon, presupposed in a heliocentric orbital motion with the Earth moving around the sun and the moon moving around the Earth. Then the radial value, if you calculated it with the maths to the sphere edge horizon they claim it to be beyond the oil rigs in the Black Swan, would be an Earth the size of the orbital presupposed motion of the moon around the Earth. But with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Programming streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the PayPal link and all that good stuff. And of course, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either after show. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!